I'd like to extend our appreciation for giving us the chance to present the Philippines Trust on Asset Management. So as a background, I'll just present the risk profile of the Philippines and its exposure to natural hazards. So just recently, this weekend, we've experienced one of the strongest typhoon for the year. Typhoon Noru entered the Philippine area of responsibility last Saturday, and within 24 hours, it had an explosive intensification and became a super typhoon. Now, those typhoons are not foreign to the country. We experience an average of 20 typhoons in a year, and this has made us a very vulnerable country. When we talk of natural hazards, we are consistently ranked among the top 10 countries with exposure to high disaster risk. And on the average, the losses that we experience is around 177 billion. So this exposure gave us the reason or the push to look at our asset management and try to improve our asset management. So, as Peter Drucker said, what gets measured gets managed. So this is the maxim that we use for our asset management. And in 2019, we were able to put in place, under the Development Budget Coordinating Council, a technical working group on asset management. So the Technical Working Group on Asset Management is represented by the Department of Finance through the Bureau of the Treasury, the Department of Budget and Management, the National Economic and Development Authority, and the Office of the President. The Technical Working Group on Asset Management is tasked to review, update, draft, establish policies and programs to improve the government's asset management of its non-financial assets. So we're talking here of fixed assets. Just in 2020, we were able to circulate or implement and adopt the Philippine Government Asset Management Policy. Now, one of the provisions under this circular is the establishment or the legal basis. It gave the legal basis for the maintenance of the National Asset Registry System under the Bureau of the Treasury. And then in 2022, we had another circular, which is the adoption of the National Asset Management Plan. So now in this circular, the agencies are asked or tasked to draft their agency asset management plan. Now the asset management plan is supposed to collect or their policies, if they have policies, their policies that involves the life cycle of their assets. So it starts with the planning, and then the procurement, the usage or the consumption. Here we also include if they have mitigation measures to protect their assets, and then the disposal. So the Technical Working Group of Asset Management is also looking at, we actually drafted an assessment tool to see the compliance of the agencies. Now the assessment tool doesn't really give the, it's not really based on a rating. It's just we need to review if they have policies. If they do have, we look at the sections that needs to be improved. If they don't have, then we look at the what other help can we do for the agencies. The Technical Working Group is also looking at capacity building programs, because we realize that since our asset management is decentralized, we needed to create asset managers within the agencies. Now, we are now having this National Asset Registry System. This National Asset Registry System, or can I call it the NARS, the groundwork started in 2018. So it's basically a database. We needed to consolidate the non-financial assets of the government. So it's really an inventory because at one time we wanted to know, do we have a list of our assets? And we found out we do not have. So the rationale for creating the National Asset Registry is first, for the government to know their non-financial assets. During the exercise, we found out that even the agencies do not know where their assets, do not know what is the universe of their assets. So this gave the agencies the realization that the reports that they are giving in the balance sheet is not complete. Okay? Now, when we know the assets, we need to track the ownership. Here, we have to protect the rights and claim of the Republic over these assets. If you know and you can track now your assets, you can better manage these assets. So when you manage your assets, you can set policies for its protection, for the management. We're not really talking here of accounting policies. We're talking of asset management policies. And these policies, this data that you have, you can do better decision making. You can consider proper timing for your procurement, asset procurement. You can consider asset sharing within the government agency so that you can maximize the utilization or the use of your asset. You can also look at asset disposal for idle asset and generate revenue. When you do asset sharing, you can have savings for the government. So in 2018 to 2019, during the initial run, we've considered 5 pilot agencies. So these are agencies that maintain strategically important assets. So we've included the Department of Health, the Department of Education, Public Works, Social Welfare, and Irrigation. As of May 2022, we have around 346,000 assets included in the registry. Now, the registry provides 6 groups of information. We have the general information, the location information, which is a vital information because we included here the latitude and longitude, which we may use for the mapping of the asset. As discussed earlier, we were talking about asset maps. So the location information is very vital. We also included here the legal or ownership information for us to assess, are all the government assets under the name of the government? Are they properly documented? Next is the financial information. Now for the financial information, we've considered several values. We have the book value, which is the balance sheet value, which is a depreciative value. And we try to introduce to the agency a different type of valuation that they may consider. One is the appraised value, or the fair market value, or the sound value for land. And then the next one is for the replacement value. Now, the financial information that we have for our registry does not intend to replace the valuation that the agency uses in their balance sheet. Basically, the financial information that we have for this registry is for purposes of asset management decision. So we try to explain to them the difference between a book value, an appraised value, and sound value or fair market value, and what is the importance of replacement value. Next is for the insurance information. So we tell the agency, since we have a law that tells every agency supposedly to insure their properties. So we ask if the properties are not insured or is it insured. And then the technical specification, here we include here the materials of if it's a building, we include here the materials, the structure. If there are disaster risk mitigation policies, we include here. So basically, this database provides so many information for our government in their decision making. we are not only looking at the disaster risk management decisions, not only on fiscal management, but we can also use this for budgeting purposes, for asset management and planning, for other disaster finance. So recently, we've acquired a geographic information system that will help us in plotting or mapping these assets. So the GIS is a system where we can input or plot the asset and then overlay typhoon tracks, historical typhoon tracks, for us to simulate scenarios and provide information, pre-disaster information of the possible losses. So we bridge the data of our database with the science data from our Department of Science and Technology in overlaying. So our decision is based on spatial and geographical analysis. So this is just an example of Typhoon Rai or Typhoon Odette, where we map the schools of the Department of Education and we try to overlay the typhoon track. We've made the scenario if it's in a 50-kilometer buffer, 200-kilometer buffer. You will see what areas will be affected. And because you have the valuation, you have the financial information in the asset registry, you're able to predict or estimate the possible losses. So this is a sample for the, again, overlaying of a typhoon track for Typhoon Haiyan and Typhoon Odette or Typhoon Rai. But you see, the registry is not only for disaster risk management. On the right side, you can see asset concentration. So you will know what part of the Philippines has a lot of assets, or let's say, for example, you want to see what part of the Philippines has a lot of schools from DepEd. So you can do the mapping of these assets. As of May 2022, we already have this number of breakdown of assets. So we've included, on the upper right, those are the pilot agencies. So as I've said, the bulk of the asset count comes from the Department of Education. But now we've rolled it out with our Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, the Department of Science and Technology. So we have initial asset count from our DOST counterparts. We have information from our maritime industry. We have asset count from our civil aviation, even the seaports, the trains. We all have this count, and we are still endeavoring to roll out this registry and the asset management so that we can have a whole government count of their inventory. Now, the NARS is not only limited to the assets, or the asset management is not only limited to the assets of the national government. We also have a separate inventory of those acquired assets. So these are the assets that has been acquired by the national government, and we are now endeavoring to place them under the name of the Republic, and it's up to our principals whether they would want to make this as an investment or disposal, or they want to sell these properties. So the asset management in the Philippines is in their infant stage yet. So we are trying to endeavor to really improve the asset management because we see the value, not only for disaster risk management, but for investment, for revenue generation. Thank you.